At first glance, it looks like a straightforward scene from a Greek myth. The enchantress Circe offers Odysseus a drink, but all is not as it seems. Waterhouse doesn't place Odysseus front and center. Instead, he hides him as a ghostly reflection in Circe's mirror, a clever device that makes us stand in the hero's shoes. This isn't just a pretty illustration from Homer. Waterhouse is encouraging us to look deeper. What does Circe's intense, unblinking gaze tell us about Victorian men's fear of powerful women? Circe Offering the Cup to Odysseus was painted in 1891 by John William Waterhouse, an English artist born in 1849 and often described as a modern pre-Raphaelite for his lush colour, romantic atmosphere, and storytelling precision. Waterhouse was enthralled by classical literature and by mythological femme fatales. Circe fascinated him so much that he painted her 3 times across his career. This 1891 canvas debuted at the Royal Academy in London when Victorian audiences were captivated by stories of dangerous, enchanting women. Critics praised the painting's dramatic composition and the emotional weight Waterhouse brought to the ancient myth. Today, the work is housed in Gallery Oldham in England, entering the museum's collection in 1952 after being donated by the family who first purchased it from the artist. Measuring roughly 148 by 92 centimeters, it's large enough for viewers to sink into the opulence of Circe's imagined domain. Why does this painting matter? Because it perfectly captures a cultural moment, the late Victorian obsession with the femme fatale archetype. At the same time, it stands as a masterclass in narrative painting. But to understand the scene, we need to know the myth. In Homer's Odyssey, Book 10, Odysseus' crew lands on Circe's island. The dread goddess invites the men in and serves them food and drink laced with a magical potion. The moment they drink, she strikes them with her wand and transforms them into pigs. Only one sailor escapes to warn Odysseus. Odysseus approaches Circe armed with a protective herb, moly, given to him by Hermes, which makes him immune to her magic. He drinks from her cup without harm. When she moves to strike him with her wand, Odysseus draws his dagger. Shocked by his resistance, Circe yields, ultimately restoring his men and becoming his ally. Waterhouse chose the precise moment before the reversal, just after Odysseus arrives, dagger raised, and Circe offering him the enchanted cup, unaware that her magic will fail. It's a perfect moment of narrative tension. Will he drink, attack, or resist temptation altogether? Now look at how brilliantly it's constructed. Waterhouse's technique retains the clarity and dual-tone palette of the pre-Raphaelites while adding a dreamy, atmospheric intensity. Circe sits in a lavish temple-like space with classical columns, exotic textiles, and decorative motifs that echo Victorian Orientalism. The storytelling elements from Homer are everywhere. The throne carved with lions, symbols of power. The wand in Circe's left hand, the instrument of transformation. The pigs at her feet and behind the throne, once Odysseus' sailors, now reduced to animals. The mirror, revealing Odysseus' tense posture, clenched fists and raised dagger, along with a glimpse of his ship and more transformed sailors. This mirror is the painting's masterstroke. It allows Waterhouse to show the confrontation while keeping our eyes fixed on Circe, positioning us exactly where Odysseus stands. It makes the encounter feel direct, personable, unavoidable. Even the small details carry symbolic weight. Circe's level, unapologetic gaze asserts her dominance. The cup she offers glitters with both temptation and threat. The animals, including pigs and even a small toad on the floor, hint at the full extent of her powers. In classical symbolism, pigs represent the collapse of civilized identity into raw instinct, the very fate Odysseus must avoid. The wand is more than a prop, it's a symbol of female agency and transformative power. unsettling within a late Victorian framework where women who wielded power, especially sexual or psychological power, were often portrayed as dangerous. And this brings us into the cultural context. The late 19th century was enthralled by classical myth, fueled by archaeological discoveries and a nostalgic idealization of antiquity. At the same time, Victorian society was anxious about shifting gender norms. The femme fatale, beautiful, seductive, potentially destructive, became a cultural obsession. Circe embodied these anxieties perfectly. Waterhouse paints her as youthful and radiant, yet her partially exposed breast would have been immediately read by Victorian viewers as a sign of transgressive sexuality. Circe becomes both enchanting and threatening, a woman whose allure undermines the boundaries of respectable femininity. Victorian art repeatedly cast women in stark binary, innocent angels or dangerous seductresses. Circe falls squarely into the latter, making her irresistible and unsettling in equal measure. Waterhouse exploits this tension masterfully, as Circe is mesmerizing, powerful, and ambiguous. We admire her beauty and command, while simultaneously sharing Odysseus' apprehension. That dual emotional pull, attraction and danger, beauty and threat. This is what gives the painting its enduring power. Well, what do you think? What does Circe's power say about how we portray women with agency? And standing where Odysseus stands, dagger raised, fate uncertain, what would you do? If you're curious about the Victorian femme fatale archetype, I have a full video on Lily Marburg as Salome, which captures the chilling climax of Oscar Wilde's banned play. Go watch it now. I think you'll love it.